The starport on Epsilon Reach was always loud, ships arriving, engines roaring, and merchants yelling at each other. But that night it was strangely quiet. The wind carried the smell of burnt fuel and rain as Captain Mira stepped down from her ship, the Seraphine. She was tall, silver-skinned, and had markings along her neck that glowed faintly under the dim lights. Her kind, the Valari, were known for their logic and discipline. But Mira was different. She wasn't looking for another Valari crew member. She was looking for a human. Rumors had spread across the outer colonies about humans, unpredictable, emotional, but brave beyond measure. Mira needed someone who didn't follow rules, someone who could think differently. Her mission wasn't exactly legal. At the edge of the dock, she saw him, a man sitting beside a broken cargo loader, his boots muddy, his jacket torn, and a scar running across his cheek. He looked exhausted, but his eyes were sharp. He wasn't a soldier anymore, that was clear, but something in his stance said he once was. Mira stopped in front of him. "You're human," she said softly. He looked up, squinting. "That's what they tell me." "Who's asking?" "Captain Mira of the Seraphine. I need a pilot who isn't afraid of breaking a few laws." He laughed quietly. "Lady, I'm not afraid of anything anymore. But I don't work for free." Mira tilted her head slightly. "You won't. Join my crew. One ship, no rules." For a moment, the man studied her. The calm confidence in her eyes, the faint pulse of light on her skin. She wasn't bluffing. There really were no rules on her ship, and that was dangerous. "Name's Rylan," he said finally, standing up. "You got yourself a pilot, Captain." Inside the Seraphine, the air hummed with quiet energy. The ship was old, patched together from different models, but she had character. The corridors were narrow, filled with wires and flickering lights. Rylan brushed his hand along the wall as they walked. "She's got personality," he muttered. "She survived 6 wars," Mira replied. "Let's hope she survives one more." Rylan raised an eyebrow. "War? You didn't say anything about that." "I didn't say it wasn't," she said simply. They entered the command deck. The control panels were alive with blinking symbols and alien text. Rylan took the co-pilot's seat, his fingers instinctively finding familiar controls. Mira watched him closely. Humans were fast learners. Chaotic, yes, but creative. "What exactly are we doing?" he asked. "Recovering something stolen from my people," she said. "An artifact, the core of Valarian. It powers our memory network. Without it, my world begins to forget. Forget? Our cities. Our knowledge. Even our history. It fades without the core." Rylan leaned back. "And you think whoever stole it won't come after us?" "They already have." Just as she said that, an alarm flared across the ship's main screen, a bright red warning flashing "Incoming vessel detected." Rylan jumped into action. "Who's chasing you, Captain?" "Not who. What?" Mira corrected. "A Dominion drone swarm." The ship's lights dimmed as Mira ran her hand across the main console. The engines roared to life, shaking the entire hull. Outside, through the cockpit glass, hundreds of tiny black drones appeared. Metallic spheres with red tracking lights closing in fast. Rylan's training kicked in. He grabbed the flight controls. "Hold on." The Seraphine shot into the sky like a streak of silver lightning. The drones followed, firing bursts of plasma that exploded behind them. Mira worked the defense systems, activating countermeasures and jamming signals. "Those drones won't stop," she warned. "Then we don't either," Rylan said, pushing the throttle to its limit. The ship dived through the storm clouds, lightning flashing around them. For a moment, Rylan thought the engines would give out. The meters were peaking into the red. But Mira's calm voice guided him through every move. "Left now. Cut power to secondary thrusters." He obeyed without question. The ship spun, dodging 3 plasma bolts that shot past their tail. He couldn't believe how she stayed so composed. It was like she had done this 100 times. Finally, after what felt like hours, the warning lights faded. The radar cleared. The drones were gone. Rylan slumped back in his seat, breathing hard. "You call that a simple job?" Mira smiled faintly. "I said no rules, not no danger." He couldn't help but laugh, even though his hands were still shaking. There was something thrilling about it. The chaos, the uncertainty, the freedom. It had been years since he felt this alive. Later that night, the Seraphine floated quietly through the dark stretch of space known as the Rim. Rylan stood by the viewport, watching the endless stars. Mira joined him, her silver eyes reflecting the starlight. "You handled the drones well," she said. "Most humans panic." "Guess I'm not most humans," he replied. "No," she said softly. "You're not?" They stood there in silence. The hum of the engines was the only sound. For the first time since leaving Earth, Ryland felt at peace. But then a faint signal beeped on the nearby console. A transmission. Mira walked over and checked the data. Her expression darkened. "What is it?" he asked. She hesitated. "The Dominion has placed a bounty on anyone aiding me." "You're on that list now, Ryland." Ryland gave a half smile. "Guess I made some new friends already." Mira looked at him with quiet seriousness. "You can still leave. I can drop you at the next station." No shame in walking away. He looked out the window again, then back at her. "You said one ship, no rules. I think I'll stick around and see where that goes." Mira's eyes softened. "Then welcome aboard, pilot." As the stars drifted past, the Seraphine continued its silent journey through the void. Two unlikely allies bound by danger, secrecy, and a mission that could decide the fate of an entire world. And deep within the ship's engine core, a faint pulse of blue light flickered, as if something ancient and powerful was waking up. The Seraphine moved through the dark expanse of space, silent except for the low hum of its engines. Ryland, still adjusting to the unpredictability of life aboard Mira's ship, wandered down the narrow corridors. Every panel, every wire, seemed alive, humming with power and mystery. Mira was in the command deck analyzing the last transmission. Her silver eyes scanned the data, glowing faintly in the dim light. The message was simple. The core must not be recovered. Destroy it or face annihilation. No sender, just the warning. Ryland stepped inside. "Looks like someone doesn't want you to succeed." Mira didn't look up. "The Dominion does not negotiate. They want the core gone, or they will erase my entire world." "Erase your world?" he repeated. Even after the dogfight with the drones, this sounded impossible. How can they do that? "The core of Valerian is not just a power source. It is a memory network," she explained, her voice calm but tinged with urgency. "Our cities, our knowledge, our history, all stored there. Without it, our civilization starts to forget. Everything disappears. Imagine waking up tomorrow and not knowing your own name, your own home, or the people you love. That is what happens if we fail." Ryland leaned back in his seat, feeling the weight of the mission pressing down on him. "And you think humans like me can help?" "You think humans fail?" she countered, turning to face him. "You survived battles I have only read about. You think in ways we cannot. That is why I need you." He glanced around the deck. "And you don't even know me. I could mess everything up." Mira's eyes softened. "That is why I need someone willing to take risks without asking permission. No rules." The hum of the engines changed, a low vibration running through the ship. Ryland frowned. "That sound... it's not normal." Mira's gaze sharpened. "The core is calling." Ryland blinked. "Calling?" "Yes," she said. "I don't fully understand it, but it reacts to life, to energy. Someone is trying to harness it remotely. The Dominion wants to corrupt it, and if they succeed, nothing we know will remain." Ryland felt a thrill run through him. For the first time, he understood why Mira was so fearless. The mission wasn't just dangerous, it was essential. Hours passed as they traveled in silence. Mira guided the Seraphine through asteroid fields, narrowly avoiding collisions with massive rocks that floated like tombstones in the void. Ryland's hands flew over the controls, dodging debris and scanning for Dominion patrols. Every move felt alive, exhilarating, and terrifying. Finally, they reached the coordinates Mira had traced from the core's signal. A small planet loomed ahead, barren and gray, surrounded by jagged asteroid belts. The core had been hidden here, somewhere beneath the surface. Mira's voice was quiet but firm. "We land here. The rest is up to you, Ryland." Ryland nodded. "What about drones? Dominion forces?" "They will come," she admitted. "But the core's location is hidden until we arrive. That gives us a small window." They maneuvered through the atmosphere, landing with a controlled thud on a plateau. Dust and debris kicked up around the ship, and Rylan could feel the planet's low gravity pulling at his boots. He stepped out, looking at the gray rocks stretching endlessly. Mira followed, scanning the horizon with her eyes. "It's here," she said, pointing to a fissure in the rocks. "The core is buried inside the mountain." Rylan raised an eyebrow. "Buried? Sounds like someone wanted it safe." "They did," Mira said. "But safety doesn't last when the Dominion hunts you." They entered the fissure. Inside, the temperature dropped sharply and the walls glimmered with veins of crystal that seemed to pulse faintly. The hum of energy grew stronger, and Rylan felt it in his chest. A warmth, a vibration, almost like the planet itself was alive. "This is incredible," he whispered. "I've never felt anything like this." Mira's expression was serious. "Focus. We don't know what protections were left." They advanced carefully. The path widened into a large chamber where a pedestal floated in the center, surrounded by a field of light. And there it was, the core. A translucent orb of pulsing blue energy, almost breathing as if alive. Rylan approached cautiously. "It's beautiful. And terrifying." Mira nodded. "It contains everything. Every memory of our civilization, every invention, every thought. If it falls into the wrong hands, the Dominion could rewrite history, or erase it entirely." As Rylan reached out, the core pulsed brighter, reacting to his presence. A vision flashed in his mind. Cities of light, people laughing, children running, knowledge flowing like rivers. Then the scene shifted. Darkness, destruction, and silence. Rylan staggered back. It's showing me things." "Yes," Mira said softly. "The core is alive in its own way. It can warn, it can guide, and it can remember. That is why it is so dangerous." Suddenly, the chamber shook violently. Dust and small rocks fell from the ceiling. Rylan turned to see the entrance collapsing. "The Dominion is here." Mira grabbed his arm. "We have to secure the core and leave. Now." Rylan didn't hesitate. Together, they activated a containment field around the core, locking it in a glowing cage of energy. The vibration of the orb grew stronger, almost like it recognized Mira's touch. Outside, the rumble grew louder. Dominion drones had arrived, descending from the sky like black swarms. They fired pulses at the mountainside, causing more rocks to fall. "Get ready," Mira said. "We leave through the vents." Rylan followed her into a narrow shaft, the core secured. The passage was tight, and the sound of drones echoed like thunder. Sparks flew from the walls as energy pulses hit the rock around them. "Do you always fight like this?" Rylan asked, ducking under a falling rock. "Always," she replied, a small smile on her lips. "Rules are optional." They emerged outside the crater, just as the Seraphine hovered above. Mira guided them with precision. Rylan piloted the ship back into orbit, the core safe in a containment chamber. The drone swarm pursued them, but the Seraphine was faster, more agile. Rylan pushed the engines to the limit, weaving through asteroids and plasma fire. Mira worked the defenses, activating shields and jamming signals. Finally, after a tense chase, the drones gave up, disappearing into the distance. Rylan exhaled, leaning back in his seat. "That was insane." Mira looked at him. "You survived. That matters more than anything else." Rylan laughed, feeling a rush of adrenaline. "I can't believe I'm saying this, but I think I like it." Mira's gaze softened. "You're human. That is exactly why you belong here." They floated in silence for a moment, watching the distant stars. The core pulsed gently in its chamber, calm now as if satisfied. But both knew this was only the beginning. "Rylan," Mira said finally, her tone serious again. "The Dominion will not stop. And the core? It is not fully awake. It may choose who it trusts. You must be ready for anything." Rylan nodded. "I'm ready." Mira smiled faintly, the silver glow of her markings bright in the dark. "Good. One ship, no rules. And together, we fight for more than survival. We fight for a future. As the Seraphine jumped into faster-than-light travel, the core's pulse seemed to sync with the ship's engines. A new bond had formed, human, Valari, and the ancient memory of a civilization, all connected in ways they didn't yet understand. And somewhere, across the void, the Dominion watched, planning its next move. The Seraphine moved faster than the eye could follow, slipping through streaks of starlight as Rylan piloted with precision. Mira sat beside him, her hands dancing over the control panels, monitoring the core's containment chamber. Its pulsing blue light had grown steadier, but there was an intensity in it now. A quiet awareness, like it was testing them. "Have you felt that?" Rylan asked, glancing at the core. "It's almost like it's alive." "It is alive," Mira said, her voice calm but firm. "Not in the way you are, but it senses, it learns. And it chooses." Rylan shivered, both from the thrill of speed and the weight of responsibility. "Chooses, you mean?" "It chooses who it trusts." "Yes, and that is why it accepted us," Mira replied. "We must protect it, and it may help us in return." Just then, the ship shuddered violently. Warning lights blinked, and an alert sounded across the deck. "Dominion patrols," Mira said immediately. "They tracked us from the planet." "They won't give up," Rylan gritted his teeth. "We're not going to just outrun them this time, are we?" "No," Mira said. "We fight." The first attack came in a burst of plasma fire. Black Dominion ships emerged from the void, sleek and deadly. Rylan pushed the throttle forward, weaving through the small asteroids scattered in the sector. The enemy ships were fast, but the Seraphine was more agile. "Targeting systems online," Rylan muttered, hands moving over the control panels instinctively. "Ready when you are." Mira's fingers flew across the console. "Activate energy pulse. We'll disrupt their targeting." A wave of energy shot out from the Seraphine, flickering in the dark space. Dominion ships spun, their plasma bursts misfiring into empty voids. Rylan smiled briefly. "Nice trick." Mira gave a small nod, but her eyes never left the core's monitor. "It's more than a trick. The core amplifies energy. We can use it, but only sparingly. It can't sustain long battles." Rylan realized that the core wasn't just a passive object. It had power, raw, ancient power that could shift the course of the fight. The Dominion ships regrouped and surged forward again. This time, Rylan had to think creatively. He piloted the Seraphine in a series of sharp loops and dives. Using the asteroid field as cover, Mira fired targeted pulses, disabling shields and scattering small drones attached to the enemy hulls. "Almost like dancing," Rylan muttered, grinning despite the tension. Mira smirked. A deadly dance. After a tense few minutes, the Dominion ships retreated, damaged but not destroyed. The Seraphine floated silently in the aftermath, engines humming like a contented beast. Rylan leaned back, wiping sweat from his forehead. "We made it. For now." Mira's gaze was fixed on the core. "Yes, but the core is not yet fully awake. It has sensed the Dominion's interference. Soon it may act in ways we cannot predict." Later, in the ship's quiet corridors, Rylan walked to the containment chamber. The blue orb pulsed gently, almost like a heartbeat. He felt drawn to it, a warmth spreading from the chamber to his chest. Mira followed him. "Don't touch it yet," she warned. "It can sense emotions. You must calm your mind before interacting." Rylan nodded, stepping back. He closed his eyes, letting the hum of the ship and the core fill his senses. Slowly, he felt a connection, a thread linking him, Mira, and the core. It was subtle at first, a whisper in his mind. Then suddenly images began to appear, cities of light, bridges spanning vast oceans, people creating inventions, flying in ships like the Seraphine. He could feel their excitement, their fear, their determination. And then a darker image. Flames, ships exploding, people fleeing. "A warning. The core is showing you the past and the possible future," Mira said softly. "It wants us to understand the stakes." Rylan's hands clenched. "This is incredible, but also terrifying. If we fail, everything disappears." "Yes," Mira said. "That is why we must succeed. The core is powerful, but we are its guides. Humans, Valari? Together, we can protect it." The next day, Mira instructed Rylan on the core's deeper capabilities. "It can manipulate energy fields," she explained. "It can enhance shields, disrupt systems, even influence gravity within a small radius. But it is unpredictable. Every action has consequences." Ryland's brow furrowed. So it's like a living tool? Exactly. And the Dominion will try to control it. If they succeed, all of Valari history is at their mercy. Suddenly, the ship shook violently. Warning alarms blared. Ryland ran to the cockpit. Outside, a massive Dominion flagship had appeared. Its hull was black, sleek, and massive, bristling with weapons. They brought their big guns, Ryland muttered. Mira's expression hardened. They will not give up easily. Prepare for battle. The Corps may need to act directly. Ryland piloted the Seraphine into a sharp, evasive maneuver, narrowly avoiding a barrage of plasma fire. Mira activated the Corps' energy pulse. Blue waves shot out from the containment chamber, hitting the Dominion flagship. Shields flickered, systems misfired, and the enemy ship staggered. It's working, Ryland shouted. Yes, but only briefly, Mira said. The Corps is testing limits. We cannot push it too far. The Dominion flagship recovered and unleashed a stronger volley. The Seraphine shook under the impact. Ryland's hands flew over the controls, dodging, spinning, and weaving. Mira fired pulses to keep the enemy off balance. Then, something remarkable happened. The Corps' pulse synchronized with the ship's engines. Energy flared along the hull and the Seraphine accelerated beyond known limits, weaving through the void like a streak of silver lightning. The Dominion flagship struggled to follow. Ryland glanced at Mira. It's responding to us? Yes, she said, awe in her voice. The Corps trusts us. Hours later, the Dominion flagship had retreated, leaving the Seraphine drifting in the calm expanse of space. The Corps pulsed gently, almost purring. Ryland leaned back, exhausted but exhilarated. Mira walked over. You see now why humans are vital? She asked. Ryland nodded slowly. I do. I've seen what it can do. And what happens if it falls into the wrong hands. I'm in, Mira, for the long haul. She smiled faintly. Good, because the Corps has more to show you. And soon we'll face challenges that will test everything. Courage, trust, and our very connection to the Corps. Ryland looked out at the stars. Then let's see what it wants to show us next. The Corps pulsed brighter this time, filling the ship with a calm, powerful hum. The bond had grown stronger, human, Valari, and Corps, together against the Dominion. But both knew that their fight was far from over. The galaxy was watching, and the next encounter would be unlike anything they had faced before. And somewhere in the distance, Dominion forces prepared their next strike, unaware that the Corps itself might already have a plan that neither side fully understood. The Seraphine glided silently through the void, but the calm was deceptive. Mira and Ryland both knew that the Dominion would not give up. The massive flagship they had faced yesterday was only a prelude to the real battle, one that could decide the fate of Valari civilization. Ryland walked the corridors, checking the containment chamber. The Corps pulsed brighter than ever. Its light seemed to reflect on every surface of the ship, and Ryland felt the same familiar warmth in his chest. He had learned to listen to it, to sense its subtle vibrations, almost like communicating without words. Mira entered, her expression serious. We're approaching the Dominion's control sector. They've tracked us here waiting. This is where they want the Corps. Ryland's jaw tightened. Then we don't give it to them. No, Mira said firmly. We fight, and we let the Corps guide us. The moment they emerged from hyperspace, Dominion ships filled the sensors. Hundreds of sleek black vessels armed to the teeth surrounded the Seraphine. It was a trap, but Mira had expected that. Ryland, keep us moving, she ordered. Follow my lead. The Corps may help, but we cannot rely on it alone. Ryland gripped the controls. I won't fail. Mira activated the Corps' energy pulse. The orb's light flared, spreading waves across the ship. Dominion shields flickered and their targeting systems went haywire. Ryland used the chaos to pilot the Seraphine through the enemy lines. This is insane, he shouted over the alarms. Insane keeps us alive, Mira replied, firing pulses from the Corps' energy into the nearest vessels. Sparks erupted, explosions illuminated the dark void, and the Dominion ship scattered. Ryland realized something. The Corps wasn't just helping, it was coordinating with them. Every pulse, every movement was in perfect sync. The ship, the Corps, and its crew were connected, a single entity moving against the enemy. The Dominion flagship emerged, larger and faster than any ship Ryland had ever seen. It was clearly their command center. Mira's eyes narrowed. That's the one controlling the fleet. If we take it out, the rest may retreat. Rylan nodded, hands flying over the controls. Then let's dance one last time. They weaved through a barrage of plasma fire. Rylan's piloting was sharp, but the Dominion flagship's weapons were relentless. Mira directed the core's energy, shielding the ship and sending pulses to disrupt enemy systems. Rylan noticed the core pulsing in a new rhythm, almost as if it were alive in a way he hadn't understood before. It wasn't just responding, it was predicting. Every time an enemy fired, the core reacted milliseconds before. It's thinking, Rylan said, astonished. Yes, Mira said softly, and it trusts us. That is why we survive. The battle reached its peak as the Seraphine approached the Dominion flagship. Rylan dodged massive energy beams, narrowly avoiding destruction. Mira unleashed the core's full pulse, sending waves of blue energy that tore through the enemy's hull. The flagship shook, sparks flying from every panel. Dominion forces struggled to regain control, but the Seraphine moved with unmatched precision, guided by the core and the combined skill of Mira and Rylan. Then, the core pulsed brighter than ever. A beam of pure energy shot from its containment chamber, enveloping the Dominion flagship. Systems failed, weapons shut down, and the massive vessel floated powerless. Rylan could hardly believe what he was seeing. It stopped them. Yes, Mira said, her voice calm but filled with awe. The core has chosen. It can act directly when necessary, but only if it trusts us completely. The remaining Dominion ships, seeing their flagship disabled, fled into the darkness. The battle was over. The Seraphine had survived against impossible odds. Hours later, the ship floated in silence. The core pulsed gently, almost as if it were breathing. Rylan and Mira stood together, exhausted but victorious. You did well, human, Mira said quietly. Your instincts, your courage, they made this possible. Rylan shook his head, smiling. We did it together. You guided me, but the core, it chose to trust us. That's what really saved us, Mira nodded. Yes, and now the core will reveal what it wants. It has tested us. It has learned that we are worthy of protecting it. And it has one choice to make. Where its future lies. The blue orb in the containment chamber glowed brighter, projecting a holographic map of Valari civilization. Cities shimmered like constellations, knowledge streams flowed like rivers, and the entire network of memories was alive before their eyes. Rylan stepped closer. It's showing us everything. All of history. Yes, Mira said softly, and it is now choosing its protector. Not just me, not just the Valari, but someone who can guide it wisely. That is why it connected with you. Rylan looked at her, understanding dawning. The core had tested him, Mira, and the ship. It had judged them worthy. The core's light shifted, focusing on Rylan and Mira simultaneously. Energy waves washed over them, and a warm sensation spread through their minds. Memories, knowledge, and understanding flowed into them. The wisdom of generations, the courage of countless heroes, the strategies of entire civilizations. This is incredible, Rylan whispered. I can feel it. Every choice, every victory, every failure. It's all here. Mira placed her hand on the containment chamber. And now we must protect it. The Dominion will return, but the core has made its choice. It will act with us, and we will guide its power responsibly. Rylan nodded, feeling a bond stronger than anything he had known, not just with Mira or the ship, but with the core itself, a living entity of history, knowledge, and hope. Weeks passed as the Seraphine moved through space, repairing damage, gathering intelligence, and securing the core. Dominion forces tried to strike again, but every time they attacked, the core responded, guiding the crew to safety and using its energy to neutralize threats. Rylan's confidence grew. He had learned to work in perfect sync with the core, feeling its guidance in every maneuver, every strategy. Mira had taught him patience, focus, and trust. Together, they became more than a crew. They became a force that no Dominion could easily overcome. And then came the final test. A Dominion armada, larger and more powerful than anything before, approached Valari space. This was the ultimate battle. Rylan piloted the Seraphine at full speed, weaving through enemy lines. Mira directed the core, sending waves of energy to disable enemy ships. The battle was fierce. Explosions lit up the void, ships collided, and the hum of the core's energy filled every corridor of the Seraphine. But in the chaos, Rylan realized something extraordinary. The core was not just reacting, it was creating opportunities. It shifted energy to protect allies, disrupted Dominion attacks before they could be launched, and guided their maneuvers with perfect timing. "This is amazing," Rylan shouted. "It's like we're one." "Yes," Mira said, smiling. "Human, Valari, and core, together. That is the future." With a final, coordinated effort, the Seraphine struck the Dominion command ship. The core unleashed a massive pulse, disabling the flagship completely. The remaining fleet, seeing their command disabled, retreated in panic. The battle was over. The Seraphine had won, the core had chosen its protectors, and the Dominion had been defeated, for now. In the quiet aftermath, Rylan and Mira stood side by side, looking at the core. Its light was calm, steady, and reassuring. "You did it," Mira said softly. "We did it," Rylan nodded. "No, we did it together, with the core." The orb pulsed once, as if acknowledging him, then settled into a gentle glow. The future of Valari civilization and the knowledge of countless generations was safe. And Rylan knew that he had found a purpose greater than anything he had imagined. Mira placed her hand on his shoulder. "The core has chosen wisely, and so have we. Together we will protect knowledge, history, and life itself. One ship, no rules, and endless possibilities." Rylan smiled, looking out into the endless stars. "Then let's see what comes next." The Seraphine moved forward, carrying its crew, the core, and the hope of an entire civilization into the infinite universe. Adventure awaited, but for now, victory and trust bound human, Valari, and core in a bond that could never be broken. The stars stretched before them, endless and bright. And with the core's guidance, they were ready for whatever lay ahead.